How's it going, Yankee fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Ryan Garcia, and today we want to discuss Aaron Judge. We all know he's on an MVP trail right now. There's a debate going on between him and Shohei Ohtani, but I think the numbers pretty much dictate that Judge is by far the best player in baseball right now, at least in the American League. Now, the question is he going to stay with the Yankees? We've talked about this before, but as new things are coming out, new developments are being heard. The latest being that the Red Sox, and I know this is like the worst thing possible for any Yankee fan, especially us, we do not want to see Aaron Judge on the Red Sox. And apparently, according to the Athletics' Ken Rosenthal, the Red Sox have the financial freedom to actually go after him. They have $45 million less guaranteed than the Yankees do for the 2023 season. They have the money. They're going to lock up Devers. They're going to lock up Bogarts. And then you're looking at Judge saying, maybe I just go up north a little bit, and 2 hours up north, and I'm on a team that has locked in some good players and they have money to spend. The question is, does he care about the Yankees at all? Would he actually do that? And I think the Red Sox being involved in Aaron Judge is more to drive the price up for the Yankees than it would be to actually bring in Judge, because I don't think Cashman would ever let that happen. I want to discuss that. I want to discuss what that would mean for the Yankees if they let him go in general, especially to the Red Sox. It would be devastating. But Ryan, let's discuss what's going on here before we do. How you do today, my friend?
Well, the Yankees have figured out a way to win back-to-back baseball games. It's crazy. They've won two in a row, dude. Two. And Aaron Judge, of course, at the forefront of this. The Yankees are nothing without Aaron Judge right now. Aaron Judge is the offense. Aaron Judge is everything for the New York Yankees. And I think I speak for both of us when I say Aaron Judge leaving would suck, obviously, but Aaron Judge going to Boston would break me. That would be, nightmare situation, code red, firing all sirens in your head, right? There are a few teams that I think can actually pony up the money for Aaron Judge, but obviously the Red Sox are a pretty big market team. As you mentioned, they don't have a lot of long-term financial commitments, if any. I'm pretty sure Chris Sale might be like the longest contract in terms of like big-time money. And as you mentioned, Bogarts, JD, they have a lot of guys coming off the books. Could they do it? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily. I think the Yankees could still fend off the Red Sox. I think they have, a bigger desire there. I think Judge would most likely pick the Yankees over the Red Sox if the money was similar. It comes down to just the Yankees need Aaron Judge because Aaron Judge is arguably the best player in the sport. This year, he's the best player in baseball. Don't give me this, does he pitch? I don't care if he pitches. Combine whatever pitching, hitting, fielding, whatever war you want to combine. Aaron Judge leads everyone by at least a win in that category. He's the best hitter in baseball this year. He's going to be the first guy potentially to have a 200 WRC plus since Barry freaking Bonds did it. And just to give you guys context, Barry Bonds is arguably the greatest player of all time. And this is rare air here, right? A lot of guys in the post-integration era have not put up seasons like Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is an offensive powerhouse. He also happens to be a pretty good defender, also happens to play center field, also happens to have 15 stolen bases. So, this is just a freak of nature we're dealing with. Power-wise, on base-wise, he's just a monster. And I don't know how the Yankees can replace his value, right? You look at guys like, hey, maybe if the Red Sox lose Xander Bogaerts, they could find a way with free agency to spend on multiple guys with that money and, recoup his value. The Yankees are going to have to replace like 10 wins, 10 WAR right there, right? That's a lot of WAR to replace. And I'm not saying the Yankees necessarily absolutely have to give Judge $40 million a year for 8 years, but damn it, it's going to be tough to replace Judge if you don't bring him back. And if you let him go to the Red Sox, a lot of terrible things end up happening over the next 8 years for the New York Yankees by just the fact that he's going to be coming back to the Bronx and killing the Yankees most likely.
Well, you said it best, right? Like, there is no replacing Aaron Judge. Look, he's not going to replicate this season, most likely ever. This is what we're witnessing right now is a historical thing. This is something that you probably won't see again in your lifetime, to be quite honest with you. The season that Judge is having is unlikely. He's carrying a team on his back. He's hit 3 homers in consecutive days. He has 3 homers in the month of September over 4 games. He is unstoppable right now. You can't pitch the guy. They're freaking leading him off because they're trying to find ways for pitchers just to toss him the ball, give him something to hit instead of just walking him aimlessly and just letting the other guy strike out or ground out or whatever it's going to be. Look, he has a 202 WRC plus. That means he's 102% better than the average player. He's 2 average players smashed into one superhuman being. And this is something that we're probably not going to see again for a very long time, if not ever. He has an 8.9 WAR this year. I mean, that's the best in his career since his 2017 season. Defensively, he's shifted over to center field. I imagine his defensive WAR would be even better if he just stayed in right field and, didn't have to use all that range, didn't have to play a more difficult position. They just kind of put him in the easiest spot in Yankee Stadium and just let him, rack up the points. But now he's transitioned to center field. And what I like about Judge the most is that he didn't say, keep me in right field where I can mitigate injury, where I can just, continue to perform. He said, no, I want the harder job. I want to be in center field. I want to be I want to have as much pressure on my back as possible. He didn't lay down and say, give me the easy way out. He said, give me the freaking hardest way to become the best player in baseball. Give me the hardest way, the hardest path possible for me to absolutely destroy Hal Steinbrenner's freaking checkbook. And that's what's about to happen because, you have the San Francisco Giants. You have the Boston Red Sox. There's a ton of teams with money to spend this offseason and a ton of teams that look at Judge and say, you know what? That's our missing piece. We want to go get a superstar that's going to take us to the next level. The Yankees simply can't extrapolate on his skill set. They simply can't build around him to be a successful team. Well, we have the pieces in place and the money to spend, and we're willing to do so to get to that point. The Yankees this is no sure lock-in for Judge to join the Yankees, or I guess rejoin the Yankees on a contract extension. Right now, I'm a little bit worried that he actually might end up leaving this offseason, whether it be to the Boston Red Sox or not. Ken Rosenthal specifically said in the outfield, a run at Aaron Judge would make sense, if only to drive up the price for the Yankees. But the more realistic names on the open market would be Kiki Hernandez, Brandon Nimmo, Mitch Haniger, and Kevin Kiermaier in the event that the Rays decline his $13 million option. So there's more likely options than Judge, of course, for any team, since he's just going to be such an astronomical price tag at 30 years old. But here's the question for you, Ryan. Aaron Judge, obviously the best player on this team right now, probably the best player in baseball, and he's having an MVP caliber season, and it's to no avail. But the question for you is, given that he's 30 years old, you're probably looking at a 7 to 9 year extension. How long can you depend on Judge to be this good before it's like, okay, this contract might have been a mistake? If the Yankees don't win over the next 4 or 5 years, the second half of his contract probably will be like, we just got to get through it. And I think that's going to be a situation for Brian Cashman. Like, you only have a short window here to actually make the most of this big contract.
Yeah, so it depends on a couple of things. The big factor, obviously, is Aaron Judge's health. We've seen him be healthy, knock on wood, of course, over the last, season and a half, this year, last year. If that's the Aaron Judge we're getting health-wise, there's no doubt in my mind the dude's going to continue to be a really good hitter, right? Power, that plate discipline, right? Even if he ends up being an 800 OPS guy over the last 3 years of the contract, he'll take it. Right field in Yankee Stadium is very much something he plays well because of his vertical advantage. He can rob a lot of home runs. He has a great arm. It's not a long distance from the, corners of right field to second base. He has great defensive instincts. Over time, he's gotten a little bit slower and his defense has not taken a hit. Like, he's played center field now where his sprint speed's at its lowest in comparison to when he was, a rookie, where he was in the 70th, 80th percentile in sprint speeds. So, he's already adapted to having less range and being a positive base runner and a positive defender still, because he's now a veteran player who knows how to play the game, just instinctually, just has a feel for the Yankee Stadium and all those things. One thing that would concern me about the Aaron Judge contract is, and the big thing has nothing to do with Aaron Judge, how willing is Hal Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, how well will Brian Cashman invest money not spent on Aaron Judge? And how often is Hal Steinbrenner going to give Brian Cashman that green light to be, go crazy with spending, right? Last offseason was supposed to be the Hal Steinbrenner gives the Yankees, Brian Cashman, the green light, and the Yankees go out and spend on a big time shortstop, and they do this and they do that. They didn't do that. They spent on Josh Donaldson, right? Whether that's partially Hal Steinbrenner's fault and partially Brian Cashman's fault, that's kind of how I see it. Hal needs to be able to greenlight big time deals for star players like these shortstops. A Corey Seager would be a game changer for the New York Yankees right now. But in the same vein, if you're Brian Cashman, sure, you may not have gotten the green light to give out a 10-year deal, but $25 million, you can do a lot more. $25 million. There are the Kevin Gosmans of the world, Carlos Rodons of the world that were on that market. Both those guys competing for the American League and National League Cy Young right now. That would be massive upgrades for this team. Or even in the trade market, right? You can make the argument there are a lot of guys the Yankees don't end up getting, or a lot of guys that are those lower tier free agents the Yankees don't end up getting. Those pitchers like Chris Bassett, or outfield like Mark Canha, Jock Peterson, Starling Marte. How willing are the Yankees going to be to build a strong team around Aaron Judge. It's great they're going to have these rookies coming up. You think Volpe, Wells, we already have Peraza up here. Cabrera's already up here. Cabrera has 7 defensive runs saved in right field. So you know what? That gives the Yankees a little more time to DH Judge. A big thing is, too, Stanton's health. It's not been great, so you're going to need to DH him. So I know his contract's most likely going to be up by the time that Volpe and all those guys hit free agency, by the time Judge is really not an outfielder anymore. But you just have a DH spot that's kind of stuck. You're kind of, not to harp on Stanton, but reality of the situation is you're stuck with him at DH. He can't play anywhere else right now. He's too banged up. How willing is Hal to spend? How many contracts we move off the books? You think Donaldson, Hicks, Glaber potentially. The DJ deal is going to be up in 4 years. So by that point in time, Judge will be 34, 35. You imagine he's still hitting, so not concerned there. But again, you have the Cole contract still. So there are a lot of things that Hal has to prove to me he's willing to consistently spend, have the top or second best payroll in the sport every single year. And Cashman has to show me that he's financially responsible enough with these big time payrolls and these big time budgets to go out and make smart spends. Don't give Chapman $60 million. I'm not saying he's going to go out and do something like that and give a reliever big time money like that, but hopefully he's moved on from those mistakes and learned from that. Hopefully he's going to be, a little more savvy. We've seen this with the Trevino deal where that was being savvy. That was a smart pickup that is looking at the, depth in the market and going out and acquiring and taking advantage of a team that had to get rid of a catcher. Even situations like the LeMahieu signing, the original one, and even the extension, I would say $15 million for DJ LeMahieu is a great deal. Cashman just has to do better with financial spending, with financial management, and, Hal has to do better with consistent spending. And then I'll feel comfortable giving Aaron Judge the big money because I have the confidence that, Glaber's not going to be here, money gone. Donaldson's not going to be here, money gone. Hicks not going to be here, money gone. That's a bunch of money right there cleared up. Tylen's contract off the books. Whatever contracts you want to talk about that are on the books are probably going to be off by then. I'll have Volpe, Cabrera, Peraza, Wells, all these guys replacing guys making money. I feel like the rest of the payroll is not going to be that expensive. You know what? Then you can convince me Yankees can go out and get Judge, can bring back Judge and still have flexibility. And obviously, time passes by, new CBAs, the luxury tax will go up. The Yankees are going to continue to make more money. They just partnered with Milan, I believe. AC Milan, I believe is what they're called. So hopefully that's more streams of revenue for them. I'm not saying the Yankees are broke, of course, but, the percentage of money spent is not going to change, but the amount of money you have to spend can change. So, it's just the Yankees have to just show me they're responsible enough to have Aaron Judge.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? You make a good point with the youngsters and the responsibility of having Aaron Judge. You have Zach Britton, you have Chapman coming off the books, but they got to find ways to get Donaldson's got to go. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they got to get that contract off the books. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. This is going to be an interesting situation for Cashman, who, he may have to go for a player and just find a way that he can throw in these contracts to take it on. He's going to have to maybe part ways with some decent talent. I just don't know who that's actually going to be. Maybe he tries to trade Gleyber Torres and he packages Josh Donaldson with him to get rid of that contract. But Torres has just been so inconsistent. Defensively, he actually has 6 defensive runs saved above average. He's had a pretty good year defensively, but offensively, polarizing play. August was just off. I think he had 180 with a 24% on base rate. And then, in July, he was a lot better, though. He was hitting, I think, 260, 250 with a 35% on base rate. He looked better then. And then suddenly, after the rumors that came out that Gleyber Torres was potentially going to be traded in that Pablo Lopez deal, he just didn't look the same. He almost lost faith in himself. I don't know if it's confidence-based. It seems to be. Maybe pitchers have just taken a different approach to him, and he's, they've kind of caught up to what he was trying to do, hitting a lot of opposite field homers, waiting a lot on those pitches, being a little bit more conservative. His walk rate is the lowest it's ever been. So maybe that's a reason they've just, taken advantage of what he was trying to do, his new strategy. So at this point in time, I think Gleyber Torres is expendable next year. They got to find a way to get rid of Josh Donaldson's deal. They got to find a way to get rid of some of these big contracts. I just don't know exactly how they're going to pull that off. But if they do manage to do it, Judge definitely makes a lot of sense. Hicks especially, he's washed as hell. How do you get rid of Hicks's, 4 years, $40 million left on his deal? How do you get rid of that? Who the hell wants him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will say it like this. Aaron Hicks, the advantage of the Hicks contract is he's making $10 million a year. So, can you get a team to $6 to $7 million a year for the next 3 years? You'll have Aaron Hicks. He's a good defender in left field. And he'll play a serviceable center field for you. Probably can't hit very much, but he can be an 8 or 9 guy in your lineup. You look at the team like the Phillies, they have horrible outfield defense. You look at, there are a lot of teams with really shitty outfielders. Like, I know that we don't have it great with outfield depth right now with the amount of injuries, but damn, there are a lot of teams that Aaron Hicks might be starting on. And if you can get them to pay more, $6-7 million a year is market value for a fourth outfielder, right? I've looked at the Brett Gardner contract, and I've consistently brought up Brett Gardner as a bar of like, he was a fourth outfielder, signed to be a fourth outfielder, and look what he makes. Jackie Bradley Jr. The Red Sox got Jackie Bradley Jr. Or the Brewers got Jackie Bradley Jr. off the books, and they didn't trade any top prospects, and they got Hunter Renfroe. So there are teams that are willing to take on flyer prospects. The Yankees have a lot of guys that are not going to be protecting that Rule 5 draft that teams might be interested in. And before people say, there's no leverage because those guys will be Rule 5 guys, if you're a team like the Pirates or the Brewers, you might not get the very first, or not the Pirates and Brewers, those are two different tiers of teams, but they might not get the first pick in the Rule 5 draft. They might not get the first crack at these prospects the Yankees are going to be leaving off their 40-man, right? So let's say I'm the Brewers, they're on the verge of missing the playoffs, and they don't really, their farm could, it's not that they have a bad form, but they could use some major league help. If they want an Andre Chaparro, here, take Hicks, and we'll give you Chaparro as well. We'll eat about $10 to $12 million of that contract, and you eat the rest of it. And you know what? The Brewers get a league average outfielder for about $7 million a year and a third baseman who's shown a lot of power at Double-A level. And they don't really have to give up much. I think the Yankees could do something like that. Donaldson's a tough one. That's $25 million for a guy who is not only not playing well, but, he's got a reputation of being an asshole, right? If you look at a lot of articles talking about how the Twins clubhouse felt, regarding Donaldson, they weren't big fans of Donaldson. You see Donaldson's antics in the dugout on the field as flipping the bat when you didn't hit a home run. How many times has he done that? Pimping and not running hard, right? Cameron Maben says it best. It doesn't take much effort to run a hard 90, right? I'm not upset at Josh Donaldson as much for not having the best offensive season. It happens. I get it. But dude, you look like you're embarrassing us, and then you're doing push-ups after. Like, great, you did push-ups. You're still a jackass, what team is going to sign up for that? That's the only big question I have. If any team is willing to sign up for it, I don't care how little you get. I would trade. They could have the entire state of New York. Get the dude out of here. $25 million off the books is huge. So I think Hicks is more movable than Donaldson is simply because of the contract. And I don't think Hicks is a dickhead. So there's that too. But maybe a team thinks Donaldson, they fooled themselves thinking Donaldson's a good player. Hopefully someone does that. But they can clear money off the books, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And look, even if they don't, I think that they'll go after Judge long-term simply because, yes, the Yankees are extremely profitable. They're the most profitable team in baseball, most likely. And then you're looking at the fact that, you have the Mets. Look at the Mets are doing right now, man. They're probably a contender for Judge right now. They're spending just feverishly. It's hard to stop them when you're spending that much. They're blowing past the thresholds without any problem, mainly because sports teams are a very good way for billionaire owners like Steve Cohen to write off a lot of losses. This is just how they balance their balance sheet. This is an interesting way that you're seeing Steve Cohen just kind of take advantage of that, but also improving a team with just egregious amounts of spending. And Judge definitely fits the bill if he wants to continue spending like that. Look, if you add Judge to that repertoire they have right now, they're going to be very dangerous. I mean, I know is DeGrom a free agent after this year?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if they retain him. He's had some injury issues, but we'll see. This is a weird situation because the Yankees have good pitching, right? Matt Blake has done a tremendous job. They're just missing a couple of consistent players that, have fallen off down the stretch, specifically the last couple of years. Whether it be Glaber, whether it be Stanton, his injury problems have been just really hard to watch. He gets in such a groove and then he falls off, and it's been really difficult the last couple of days. And then he had the foul ball off his foot yesterday and he was limping around in the 8th inning. Just not a good look. This team has a couple of weeks here to get healthy, but we're still hoping that they can do so and keep stringing some wins together before we lose that AL East lead. But hopefully a couple wins against the Twins will set us right, and Judge can continue to hammer that baseball and showcase his value. But I think they're going to extend him personally. I don't think they have much of a choice, to be honest. I think if they let him go, the Cashman's head is going to be one on a spike by the entire fan base. I don't think that they can allow it to happen. He's the image of their team. He's the face of the franchise. They have a freaking section in the outfield carved out for the guy. If they do if they do retain him, he'll have his number retired one day. This is the type of player the Yankees are looking at. They don't normally let these guys go. But sometimes these guys go for more money, and ultimately, I guess they're just going for the maximum payday. And if I'm Judge, look, if I really like being a Yankee and I think that we could do something special here, I'm gonna. What is 1.5 million a year gonna do for me when you're making 35 million per season? You know what I mean? Like, what is the big difference at the end of the day? There's ways that they can supplement that. So, we'll see how things go. But right now, I'm a little cautious. I'm a little bit worried that some other team's going to swoop in here that has more money or, has a little bit more freedom, flexibility in the salary space. But, the Yankees definitely do want to keep Judge. And I think that that's kind of their primary goal. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspective below in the YouTube comments about this topic. What you would do if the Red Sox came swooping in with a boatload of cash looking to steal Judge from us. If Judge just leaves in general. What are the probability you think that he'll stay with the Yankees? Definitely a lot to discuss. This will be an ongoing conversation as we head into the postseason and the winter months as these kind of negotiations ramp up. So we'll have you guys covered with all the necessary information as always. Hope you guys have a fantastic week ahead, a great Tuesday, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.